Hi BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I am coming to you with a weekly reads video. This is for September the 27th through October the 3rd, week number 40, and I finished 8 books this week, you guys. It's pretty spectacular. I'm so pleased with that. And the majority of them I really enjoyed. So, as I do these videos, I'm going to talk about each of the books that I finished this week, and I'm going to timestamp each of them in the description box below. So if you're not interested in hearing about a certain book, you can jump ahead or what have you. The other things I'm going to share in this video are, of course, what I'm currently reading, and then I'm going to share my knitting with you guys. So I have no NetGalley books this week, and I haven't bought any books this week. So it's been a quiet, books coming in week. Well, not really, because I did buy some books digitally. But I am going to be sharing my digital book haul on the channel later this week. That will be up. I think on Thursday, because on Tuesday is going to be my September wrap-up. So, yay. So we're having a bit of a lazy Sunday. I went sans makeup for this. I'm wearing my glasses. I don't have contacts. Contacts don't work. I don't like them. I don't like the way that they feel. So if, I just find the more and more I try and do this without my glasses on, the more I realize I need the glasses. So you have to try and figure out a way so, guys don't get like a crazy glare. It's not too bad right now, but it is overcast outside right now. They're calling for rain all day and it's cold. Garrett and I were out this morning on, coffee run from McDonald's, and it was 8 degrees Celsius, which I think is about 45, 46 Fahrenheit. So it's chilly and the leaves are starting to change color and all those things. So yay. Anyway, let's jump in to talk about all the books that I finished this week. Yay! So the first book that I finished was In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. This one is a NetGalley read. It comes out in October, so thank you very much to NetGalley and to Simon & Schuster for sending me an e-arc of this one to read and review. I did read it, of course, as an ebook, and I really enjoyed it, you guys. It was adorable. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the Christmas season or of the holiday season because I am such a fan of Christina Lauren, and I know a lot of their books for some people are very hit or miss. I, of course, love The Unhoneymooners. It was my favorite book last year, and I really enjoyed Roomies, Dating You, Hating You. I know there are some people who absolutely loved In Love and Other Words, which I haven't read yet, and I really need to get on that one. I'm hoping before the end of the year. And then I know there are more recent releases, like I wasn't a huge fan of Twice in a Blue Moon, and I liked The Honey Don't List, but I know some people did not. But this one I really enjoyed. So anyway, this is the story of May, and she is about 26 years old, and every year at Christmas time, she goes with her parents, who are actually divorced. They divorced years earlier, but yet they still, the mother's remarried, but her husband goes with his daughters, his adult daughters, on a holiday together over the Christmas break. So the mom comes with her ex-husband and the kids. So May's got a younger brother named Miles, I think it is, or Milo. Anyway, so they all travel to this friend's cottage in Park City, Utah. So, which is now a very ritzy area, but at the time that the friend bought the cottage, it wasn't. It was just up and coming, so they got a good deal on it. So anyway, it's college friends of the parents. There is another couple, and they have 2 sons named Andrew and Theo. And then there is 2 gentlemen who have a set of twins. Little ones, like they're about 6 or 7 years old. So anyway, ever since May was a little girl, she doesn't remember not going to this cottage over the holidays. So at the very beginning of the book, it's like the last day, it's after the holidays, and they find out that the people who own the cottage are selling it. So there will be no more of these holidays, essentially. So May is really upset. So I'm really not giving too much away because this literally happens within the first chapter, that her and her parents and her brother are all in the car and they're driving back to the airport to leave, and they're all kind of really bummed out about hearing this news. And then there's a car accident, and she wakes up in the plane 6 days earlier at the beginning of this trip, going to do it again. So it's that Groundhog's Day theme from the movie, which is one of my favorite movies, Groundhog's Day. They also said this is a lot like the movie Love Actually, which I've never actually seen. So I can't comment on how it compares to that. Any of you who have read this book, do let me know. But anyway, so the whole plot of the story is after that is May has always had this thing for Andrew. He is the older son of the people who own the cottage, and they've known each other since they were little kids. So it really is a sweethearts, sweethearts to romance or lovers kind of story. And it was really cute. There was some funny bits in it. I wouldn't exactly call this a romantic comedy per se, but there were some funny bits in it. One of my favorites at the very beginning when she realizes that she's like, because it happens a couple times where she goes back in time. And she's like, if I had known this, I would have bought a lot, or, I would have checked the lottery numbers or something, which I think is like a quote or something from Groundhog's Day. So I really like that. I really love the characters in this. May was really fun. Andrew was okay. I didn't absolutely love him. But I could see the appeal for May, and the parents were great. And Uncle Benny, who is like the single uncle, kind of weird, like a hippie stuck in the 2020s kind of an idea. He was a lot of fun. And the one comment I do have to make on this one, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. Sorry, I didn't think I said that. My one comment on this one is I think it was because that these grown children, like May's 26, and I think Andrew's like 29. He's about 3 years older than her. And then Theo is May's age. And then her younger brother is probably 18 or something like that. That because they were the quote-unquote kids at this thing for the Christmas season at this cottage with the parents there, it read in a way, if you took out the drinking and there is some adult content, there is May and Andrew do have some relations, if you will. It would read almost like a YA novel, I feel. Just because, and I was talking to my friend Rainey about this, because Rainey over at Rainy Day Reads, she had an e-art copy of this as well, and she finished it last week. And we were talking about it. She kind of understood what I was trying to say, that when you're an adult, it doesn't matter how old you are, but when you get into a situation when you're with your parents, you are still the kid, regardless if you're an adult. You could be a brain surgeon with a downtown Manhattan apartment that's worth $2.2 million and have a wife and 4 kids. You get around your parents and you're still the kid. Do you know what I mean? So it really felt a lot like that. That's why I say it read almost like a YA. Like, that's how it felt to me. And I was actually felt a little discombobulated at the very beginning of the story, because May is sneaking around the house to go talk to Benny about this thing that happened, and that happened with her and actually Theo at the very, very beginning of the book. And to me, I thought it was a flashback. Like, I thought she was like 16 or 17 years old, sneaking around this house to go and talk to her uncle. Do you know what I mean? So it was like a little discombobulating to realize that she's 26 and she still feels the need to sneak around. You know what I mean? So outside of that, though, I really, really loved it. And I'm not saying that that was a bad thing. I think that this would have actually been a really fun YA novel. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. If you are a fan of Christina Lauren, this one is really great, and I mean, perfect for the Christmas season. So the next book that I read, unfortunately, I didn't love quite so much, and that was Manhunting by Jennifer Crusie. I listened to this one, on audiobook. It was narrated by Renee Rodman, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. So the reason I read this one, it was not originally on my TBR, but I am doing the Pass the Parcel challenge with the Romance Readers Reading Group on Goodreads. And for last week, you had to read a book off of a specific list. Like, the Listopia on Goodreads, that there's like some lists that have hundreds and hundreds of books. And this one was actually on the list for some of the greatest romances of all time. And I don't know. I think this is a case of reading this book that was published in 1992 in 2020 is a big leap. So this is the story of a woman by the name of Kate. And Kate is a high-powered executive, and she needs a vacation. And so her best friend tells her to go spend some time in this resort in Kentucky. So she begrudgingly agrees because she is trying to find a husband. She's 35. What I did really like is that she was older. Like, she wasn't some 20-year-old going, oh my God, I need a husband kind of an idea. Like, she was 35. And again, even at 35, you do not need a husband. You do not need a significant other. You can be perfectly content by yourself. Married women everywhere will agree. You could be perfectly content by yourself. The grass is not always greener on the other side, as I like to joke. But anyway, that's her goal. So She heads off to this resort and she ends up meeting a bunch of guys. But the guy she ends up falling for is actually the owner of the resort, but he doesn't act like it because he used to be, I think, a legal, some sort of like bigwig accountant in Boston. And he gave it all up when he made like a bunch of money and he retired early. And then he gave his brother the money to buy this like resort. Like, so he's like, they co-own it together, but he spends his days fishing and doing not much else. So she thinks he's just like a lazy groundskeeper. She doesn't think that he actually is the co-owner of this resort. My one issue with this book, my biggest issue with this book, was how derogatory a lot of the characters were towards the women, and even the women themselves. Like, it wasn't just the men being like very sexist. Like there's a scene where on the first night that Kate's there and they're having like this luau pool party kind of an idea. And these guys are coming up to her and grabbing her butt and making very lewd comments to her. And I just thought that's something that would not play out right now, like in this day and age in a novel. And I found it very icky. But that was the point. Like, Kate wasn't like, oh my, just stop. I mean, she pushed the one guy into the pool, so kudos to her. But I still found it was just, and I think the bigger issue for me was the way they portrayed this one friend of Kate's, and I think her name was Penny. And she was staying in the cottage next door to Kate's, and she was very atypical, bubbly blonde, great body, dumb as a post. Like, I hate to use that, but that's a stereotype, and that she was very much a stereotype character, and I didn't like it at all. She was engaged to this guy, and she was still out at this resort to have quote unquote fun before she gets married. Like, and she's only marrying this guy. He's a lot older than her. She wants a baby and blah, blah, blah. So I just, again, things that wouldn't necessarily fly in romance novels now. But Jennifer Crusie is a good writer. Now, I did find out after reading this one, this was her first book. And it unfortunately does read like her first, like it would have been her first book. It wasn't perfect. It was far from perfect. But it was still a fun read. I mean, it was on Audible Escape, so I figured, why the heck not? And yeah, I mean, it was a fun little romp. It wasn't very long. I think it came in at like 6 or 7 hours long. So yeah, it was enjoyable enough. But if you have not read Jennifer Crusie, I don't think she's really published much in the last while, but a number of her quote unquote newer books I think you should go for. Maybe This Time is one of my favorites, so maybe check that one out. But yeah, I mean, this one was fun. The next one that I finished, another one I was a little bit disappointed in, was October Kiss by Kristen Ethridge. This I read on audio. It was narrated by Rachel L. Jacobs. And this one was this was for my Fall Into Reading Challenge prompt of to read a book set in the fall or in the autumn. And this one clearly is because it takes place in October. So I think I mentioned when I put my TBR together and I was talking about this book that I have only ever watched one Hallmark movie. I am not a movie watcher generally, and the Hallmark movies, I mean, not that I have a problem with them, but the bigger thing is that we don't get them up here in Canada unless you subscribe to a certain service provider, and I'm not subscribed to that. We have enough. We have Netflix and CBS All Access and Amazon Prime. I'm good. And I'm not like chomping at the bit to watch these movies. And in retrospect now, I'm glad that I don't. Because the one Hallmark movie that I've ever watched was this one. And I didn't realize it until I put the book on my TBR, that it was the one Hallmark movie that I've seen. And the good thing is with these Hallmark movies, it's a good and a bad thing all in one shot. It is exactly like the book. So because I'd already seen the movie, I was literally reading the movie. Like, there was it's not like it was adapted from or whatever. This is a direct, it's like they shot the movie, found an author and said, here's the script, write us the book. Down to the clothing choices. Like, it was ridiculous, actually. It was a little bit ridiculous. And I just didn't like it. So I think going forward, if I'm reading these Hallmark published books, I don't want to have seen the movie, because or it would be one where you'd read the book first and then see the movie. So, I mean, but this was cute. The reason I'm knocking it down to 3 stars is because I'd seen the movie. If I hadn't seen the movie, this probably would have gotten like a 4-star rating from me. So this was a super, super cute story. So if you want a sweet and clean romance, definitely check this one out if you haven't seen the movie, or just watch the movie. And it's the story of Poppy and Ryan. Sorry, the cats are complaining as per usual. So Poppy is the kind of person who like flitters from one job to another. She can't decide what she wants to do. And her sister's like, hey, you got to buckle down and make a decision and start doing something with your life. So this friend of the sisters, whose name is Ryan. He has 2 children. His wife died a number of years ago, and he needs a nanny, and the kids just go through nannies like hotcakes. So they're just rude children and mean to the nannies, so nobody sticks around. So Poppy ends up getting hired, and she becomes the nanny. So, it's pretty much the story of her and Ryan is, spending time together with the kids and hi Goran and, all those things. It was like really, really cute. Perfect for Halloween because it takes place right at Halloween or in the weeks leading up to, and it was really delightful. Like at the end of the day, I have to give credit. The story was super delightful, and I remember when I watched the movie, I really enjoyed the movie. Again, my biggest complaint is that they are identical to each other. I mean, there's a lot of times that you'll watch a movie that's adapted from a book, something like Harry Potter, but there's so much in Harry Potter that, it's okay, whereas this is so simple, it just wasn't okay. The next book that I finished was A Christmas Carol Murder by Heather Redmond. This one I gave 4.5 stars to. I love this. It was an adorable cozy mystery. So this was a NetGalley read, so thank you very much to NetGalley and to Kensington Books for sending me an e-arc of this one to read and review. This book did come out in September. I did listen to it on audio. I went ahead and grabbed the audio narration of it, and I'm so glad I did because it was so good. It was narrated by Tim Campbell, and he did a brilliant job. This is book number 3 in Dickens of a Crime series. So anyone else who is a fan of Charles Dickens's work would love this series. So the first 2 books, I believe, are based off of A Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations, neither of which I have read. But I feel that this is a series that you would have needed to have read the source material in order to fully appreciate these stories. So I am a huge fan of A Christmas Carol. It is my favorite Christmas story, hands down, of all time. I have read so many adaptations of it, and this one was so utterly charming and brilliantly done. So the premise of this series is Charles Dickens himself is our amateur sleuth. Is that not awesome? I love it. So it's, of course, Victorian London. So those of you who are participating in Victober and you want to get a holiday read for it, I recommend this because it does take place. It wasn't written in Victorian times. It was written about Victorian times. And my mom's currently listening to it on audio. I gave her my Audible login, and she's listening to it. And she's absolutely charmed by it as well. And she says she loves how he keeps buying like these hot potatoes to put in his pocket so his hands stay warm. And I'm like, that's such a Victorian London thing that they used to do. So anyway, the premise of the story is about a man by the name of Jacob Harley is murdered, and it's when Charles and his fiancée Kate and their friends are wandering around doing Christmas carols and like Christmas caroling, and this body falls out of the window in chains, and it's this guy named Jacob Harley. And there's a man who owns the home that Jacob was in. His name is Mr. Screw, so not Scrooge, Screw. And there's all these characters that you meet throughout the course of the story. Again, like I said, if you would have had to have read, I think, A Christmas Carol to really appreciate what the author was doing here, that there's this supposed illegitimate child of Charles Dickens's that this woman drops off at the very beginning of the story. His name is Timothy, Tiny Tim. There is a Cratchit, I believe his name is actually Cratchit, character, and this one was so good. So charming, so wonderful. Again, I think maybe because I am such a fan of A Christmas Carol and I love all the adaptations of it, that this one was so creative and so much fun. It made me happy. And yeah, I mean, I do sit here every week and review books for you guys, but I am not a critical reviewer. There were probably issues with this or what have you. I am a reviewer who reviews because I love books, and I will tell you guys if I love a book. I won't get into, the critical parts of it. It's just this was a delightful story with delightful characters. I'm not saying that there was anything wrong with it, but I know, like, to get a 4.5 star rating is quite high, but I just love this so much. It was utterly charming, and I highly, highly recommend that you all check it out, especially if you are a fan of A Christmas Carol. Yeah, I loved this one so much. The next book that I finished was A Little Country Christmas, and this was by Carolyn Brown, Rochelle, Alers, AJ Pine, and Hope Ramsey. So this is, of course, an anthology of Christmas stories, and I ended up giving the anthology as a whole 3.5 stars. It's sometimes harder to rate anthologies, in my opinion, because each story I almost want to take as a separate entity, and what I typically do is I give the rating for each individual story, and then I divide it by the number of stories and get the average for the entire book. So that's what I did here, 3.5 stars. This was another NetGalley read, so thank you again to NetGalley and to the publisher Forever for sending me an e-art copy of this one to review. This one did come out in September, but I highly recommend that you go ahead and check it out. Of course, I read this as an ebook. So I'm not going to get into all the individual stories, but they were really cute. So they kind of all had a very country type theme, and they were all really good. I mean, I don't know really what else to share with you. I think a couple of them, maybe the AJ Pine story, I think the Hope Ramsey story, and the Carolyn Brown story. I know for sure the Carolyn Brown story were novellas as part of a larger series that those authors write. And in my opinion, if you're putting out a novella like in a bind up like this, I don't think that's the best way to go personally, unless your readers have read all those novels, because I hadn't read the Carolyn Brown series, and then here I am jumping into a book that I know nothing about all the other characters. I mean, generally I am one who does jump around in series and it doesn't bother me in the least. But for anybody else, you know, they kind of have to, you know, if people are series completionists, they would need to hunt out the original bits of the series first. You know, I think if you're going to put something in an anthology, it should be a standalone novel. That's just, or standalone novella. That's just my opinion. But overall, these were super cute, super sweet, full of Christmas. I really, really, really liked them. You know, overall, it was great, and it was highly enjoyable. And if you like just little Christmas stories, go ahead and pick them up. Again, like I said, for sure I know that the Carolyn Brown book, the first book, was part of a larger series. But really, it could be read as a standalone. It's an offshot character. I can't comment on how much he's mentioned in the original series. I don't know. So, but anyway, really enjoyable. Absolutely recommend that you check it out. And the next one that I finished, that was the last book that I read for September. So the next 3 books are all books that I finished in October. Yes, I have read 3 books. And today is the 4th of October, so yay for me. So the first one that I finished was This Heart of Mine by Brenda Novak. This, I listened to this, on audiobook. It was narrated by Carly Robbins, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. This one was cute. This is book number 8 in the Whiskey Creek series. I have not read any of the previous books. Again, as I just talked about for the anthology, I can jump around in series and it doesn't bother me. So this is the story of Phoenix and Riley. And 17 years earlier, when Phoenix herself was only 18 years old, she was involved in a bad hit and run. She was behind the wheel of the car. And a girl that they went to school with, one of her classmates, was killed. And Phoenix was sentenced to prison. She spent the next 17 years in prison. Right before she went in, she gave birth to a baby boy. Her and Riley had been a couple for a little period of time. And she had the son, her son's name is Jacob, and he was raised by her father. So the story starts off with she is now out of prison. She served her time, and she comes back to the small town of Whiskey Creek in California to kind of get to know her son again. And over the course of that happening, of course, she ends up forging again a relationship with Riley. And this was a really cute and sweet story. I liked it a lot. The thing was, I was not as invested in the relationship between Phoenix and Riley as I was in what was happening with Phoenix and the whole, did she do it or did she not do it? Because that is, even now, 17 years later, still in question. She maintains that she's innocent and that there's someone out there who can prove that she's innocent, but at that time, that person would then become the guilty party. Do you know what I mean? So that was the part of the story I was really invested in. But the characters in this were really good. I mean, every character in here really stood out as being an individual. They were not a caricature, of like of a typical kind of person. And yeah, I just really appreciated the fact that Phoenix was trying to get her life back together, and she didn't want to accept a lot of help, even though the town and some people in the town wanted to help her. The rest of the town pretty much stayed away from her like she was some sort of a pariah. And, you know, she was even trying to distance herself because she didn't want her son to be ostracized because of who his mother is and the fact the mother's back and all these things. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. That's a better than average star rating from me, and I highly recommend that you check this one out. This series is great. I mean, I've just read the one book from it, but I can already get that great small town feel from the series. So I really do recommend, maybe if you're a series completionist, start at the beginning. I think it starts off with a novella, and then works its way into the series. But yeah, this one was a really, really good addition to the series. The next one that I finished was Death Overdue by Allison Brook. This one was, I read as an ebook. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a cozy mystery series, and it's book number 1 in the Haunted Libraries mystery series. So this one was cute. Our main character's name is Carrie, and she is a librarian at this small town library in, I think it was in Connecticut. And she is kind of up for a promotion. But she's a little bit of a wild child. She's got purple hair, and she kind of dresses like a goth, and, so they're like, we're going to give you this promotion, but you got to start dressing like, a quote-unquote librarian should. So she dyes the purple out of her hair, and she starts wearing more, clothes befitting of a small-town librarian. And then she ends up meeting this former person who worked in the library, a former librarian, named Evelyn. The thing is, though, is that Evelyn is dead. To quote the great Charles Dickens, Evelyn was dead to begin with. And so Evelyn kind of helps her out with a lot of the things that are going on, and kind of shows her the way of, being able to work in the library and getting along with some of the people at the library. Well, right, of course, at the beginning of the book, this is a cozy mystery. Someone dies, and it's this man by the name of Al, who's a former police detective in town. And he was investigating a cold case into the murder of this mother 15 years earlier. So it's kind of 2 cases in one, in a way. You're trying to figure out who killed Al, and at the same time, who killed this woman named Laura. But it's the same person who killed both of them. So it was fun. It did keep me guessing throughout the book. Like, there was a number of times that I'm like, okay, is it that person? Well, maybe it's that person. And I did like the characters in this. Carrie lives with her great aunt and great uncle, and they were delightful. And she does have kind of a romance with this guy named Jared, but nothing really goes there. So, because at first it was him, and then there's this other guy named Dylan, who is, she moves out on her own in this book. She was living with her aunt and uncle, and then she's moved out on her own into this like cottage, and he owns the cottage, so he's her landlord. And I first, when he came up in the book and she started kind of fancying on him, my first thought was, oh, here we go. A very typical cozy mystery love triangle, but it doesn't end up that way. I'll tell you that one off the bat. It starts to read that way, but it doesn't end up that way. So that's all I'm going to, share with you on that one. But this was really cute. This one takes place, this is actually quite a long time period, It starts out in the few weeks before Halloween and ends up sometime mid-December is when it ends. So it's you're getting Halloween and you're getting Thanksgiving in this one, even though the cover is clearly Halloween. But yeah, this one was really, really cute. I liked it a lot. And when I finished the book, it popped up on my Kindle. It's like, would you like to buy book number 2 for $1.99? I'm like, yes, I would. So I did. And it's a Christmas book, so that one might have to get read at the holidays. So, excuse me, I have the hiccups. We shall see. So yeah, I really like that one. If you love cozy mysteries, I recommend you give it a try. And the last book that I finished this week was another cozy mystery, and that was Booked for Death by Victoria Gilbert. I only gave this one 3 stars, though, guys. I did not love this one very much. So this was another NetGalley read. This one came out back in August, and thanks again to NetGalley and to Crooked Lane Books for sending me an e-art copy of this one to read and review. I did end up listening to this one on audio, and it was narrated by Susie Athens, and this is the first book in the Book Lovers B&B Mystery Series. So, my issue with this one, my biggest issue was the main character, Charlotte. With cozy mysteries, because the amateur sleuth is the focus of all of these books and all of these series, like if you find a long-running series like the Hannah Swenson series, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, you've got to like Hannah, because there's 23 books featuring Hannah. So if you don't like Hannah, you're not going to like the series. And especially with cozy mysteries. I mean, with contemporary romance in series, when you jump from couple to couple, you can get to books that you don't absolutely love the couples in that story, but if you get to the next book, it's a different couple, so it's somebody else that you might like better. But again, the amateur sleuth is what drives these series, and Charlotte in this book I was not a fan of. I'm sorry. So the premise of this series is that Charlotte inherits this bread and breakfast from her great aunt that she didn't particularly know very well. And it's very book themed, like if it's very bookish, and I really like that going into it. But then the more and more I read the book, and the more and more that you were introduced to Charlotte, I just really didn't like her. I just felt there was nothing particularly wrong with her, but I felt that she was potentially in the wrong business. So she's running this bed and breakfast, and she's not a very good hostess. She is at times even a little rude to her guests. There was one scene in the book where there's a couple with their teenage daughter, and they're staying at the place, and the bed and breakfast is called Chapters. And the teenage daughter is like 17 or 18 years old, so she's not like 13. She's a bit older. And, you know, in the middle of the night, Charlotte comes downstairs, and this daughter is sitting at the kitchen table, and she's eating crackers or something like that. And Charlotte berates her and is like, it's kind of expected that the guests are not to come down and, help themselves in the kitchen. Well, okay, but is that in the rules anywhere? Like, did you tell them that when they checked in? She didn't say anything about that. And if it's a bed and breakfast, like, so you're going to feed your guests dinner and then they're kind of on their own until the morning? Like, I guess people can bring snacks. I don't know. It's the way she dealt with it that I just found it was not very good customer service. Let's put it that way. As someone who does customer service for a living, it was very poor customer service. So yeah, and there were other incidences too where she would kind of like leave the guests and like go off and do her own thing with the mystery and be like, oh, the chef and whatever are there, they can look after them. And I'm like, well, that's not a very good hostess. That's your job, is like, you are hosting people for a living. That's your job. So she wasn't doing a very good job of it. And I just didn't particularly like her. So I do not know if this is a series I will continue on with. If you're a cozy mystery fan, maybe give it a try. I listened to it on Scribd. It wasn't very long, about 8 hours long on audio. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars, so it was an average rating. The mystery itself was quite good. It kept me guessing, again, all the way till the end. And then I figured it out around the same time that the characters figured it out. It's like, okay, yes, I should have seen this one coming. But yeah, no, it was good in the mystery aspect of it. I just did not very much care for Charlotte, unfortunately. So, it's all the books that I read this week, you guys. Pretty awesome, right? So, what am I currently reading? I am clearly still on a cozy mystery kick, and I am currently listening to on audio Cherry Cheesecake Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is the 8th book in the Hannah Swenson series. I'm slowly making my way through this series. It is a delight. These make me so happy because I think this series is just so cute and so sweet. So in this one, so the premise of this cozy mystery series is about a woman named Hannah Swenson who owns a shop called the Cookie Jar in a small Minnesota town called Lake Eden. And she keeps stumbling over dead bodies. So in this one, there is a movie that is coming to town that is going to be shot on the main street in Lake Eden. And clearly someone is going to die. I'm only like 2 chapters into it. So, of course, I will give you guys my update next week on what I think about it. I'm hoping to actually get it done tomorrow. And the other book that I'm currently reading is Shadow Point Deputy by Julianne Lindsay. This is a Harlequin intrigue novel. So this book was not on my TBR for October. I have added this one and the next book in this series. This is book number one in the Garrett Valor series, but it's actually, I think, book 3 in a series because last Wednesday I was watching a live show over on Nicole at Who Picked This Book's channel. I will leave a link to it in the description box below. Her and Jen do a weekly live show, usually talking about certain books, but they actually had Julianne Lindsay on, and she was talking about this series. So for the months of October, November, and December, they are reading through Julianne Lindsay's backlist of books, and I am so here for it because I'm such a fan of her stuff. So that's why this one kind of got jumped onto my TBR for October, because I want to read it ahead of Wednesday when we have the live show and we can talk about it and everybody's going to talk about it. So I'm really super stoked about that. Again, I'll leave a link to Nicole's channel below. You can check it out. But Julianne Lindsay was talking about the fact that the first 2 books in this series had a different series title. And then because there was another series with the same name or a similar name, she had to change the name. And so this one, for some reason, is listed as book 1, but in reality, it's book 3. So it doesn't matter. The one I'm reading. So this is the story of Cole and Rita has witnessed a murder, and Cole is the deputy who is going to protect her. So I will talk more about this one next week when I get this one done, because like I said, I'll finish this one probably today. So that's all that I'm currently reading, you guys. So let me just show you guys my knitting real quick, and then I'll let you go. So first of all, before I show you anything else, guys, I finished something this week. I finished a hat. I did. Look, the pom-pom's even on, and I wove in all the ends. Isn't that awesome? So there's where I was last week. It's kind of hard to see because this yarn is so, but that's where I was last week. So this is all that I finished. I really knit my way through this one this week. So let me do this. And I will show you guys this awesomeness. Now, I did modify the pattern. So this is called Pond Hopper, and it's by Alicia Plummer. So in the pattern, it calls for you to do 2 repeats of the pattern, and the repeats are 12 rows long. So you do your ribbing, then you do 2 repeats of the pattern, and then you do this, like the crown decreases. I feel like I've got like I'm a Muppet, like it's a Muppet. Hello, kids. Okay, so then you do your crown decreases. And I did the 2 repeats, and I put it on my head, and I'm like, it's going to be a little small. So I did 1 more repeat of the pattern, and then I did the crown decreases. And for me, it fits me perfectly. I don't want to constantly be pulling my hat down over my ears. I live in Canada. It gets cold. This is not a fashion statement. This is actually, I mean, it is a fashion statement, but it's not just a fashion statement. It's to keep me warm too. So as you guys can see, like the extra repeat, like that's literally at the top of my head. So if I had done 1 shorter, I would have been constantly tugging this down. At least that's how I feel about it. And also, I like it coming down a little bit further on the neck too, because it keeps the back of your neck, you know, warm as well, right? Again, Canada. But yeah, I kind of really love it. I mean, the yarn is really, really variegated, so it's kind of hard to see like the cabling pattern that's in there, but it is there. I would like to do this one again, perhaps maybe on a solid color yarn, just so you can really see the pattern. And I do love the pom-pom. Of course, I bought that at Michael's. Gotta love a pom-pom on a hat. There's just something about it, right? So yeah, so super, super stoked about finishing that. So I'm going to wear that for the rest of, I just like seeing the pom-pom do that. Okay, so, oh, and I'll show you guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to kick the table. Show you guys really quickly. So the pom-pom is attached. The pom-pom actually has a elastic on the bottom of it. So what I did was, my friend Mandy taught me this trick, is I sewed a button in on the bottom of it, and I just pulled the words, Sarah, words. The elastic part of the pom-pom through, and I hooked it onto this. So then the cool thing is, if I need to wash this for any reason, I can just unhook it, take the pom-pom off, and throw it in the washing machine. And also, you could kind of like switch up the pom-pom, right? Like, oh, today I would like an orange pom-pom. So you can go ahead and put one on. So yeah, clearly I'm going to put this back on because I'm having a bad hair day. So yeah, so anyway. So there's my awesome hat. Again, it's called Pond Hopper by Alicia Plummer. I will leave a link to the pattern page on Ravelry in the description box below. So, socks. Got some work done on them this week. I'm still only on the first sock. Excuse me. So, oh, and the yarn for this is Hayride. The colorway is called Hayride, and it's by Fiber Stash. Thank you, Christy. Christy from Fiber Stash is an absolute delight. You need to buy all of her yarn because she's great. So not a lot of work on the sock. That's where I was last week. That's what I've gotten done. I'm still working my way on the foot. There's the heel, the leg. I've showed you guys all this for the last few weeks. So yeah, I'm hoping to get this one, hoping to get the first sock done this week, but we shall see. So I've been working on that. The yarn is from Knit Picks, and it's Knit Picks Felici, which is a self-striping yarn. And the colorway is called Vampire Vibes. Perfect for the month of October, right, guys? And of course, it's living in my Halloween bag. And the pattern on these, the pattern is called Twizzlers. So yeah, so that's pretty awesome. The other thing that got a lot of love this week, which is another thing I'd like to get done in the next, my goal is to get these and the shawl done by the end of October. So we shall see if that ends up being the case. Sorry, the needle is sticking out of this bag. Okay, let me put it over here in my awesome Golden Girls bag. And thank you to one of my lovely subscribers who, I don't think I mentioned this last week, who I made a comment that I would love this fabric in a book sleeve. They pointed out a shop to me on Etsy that does have it, and I bought it. And I bought the one for a Kindle Paperwhite size. So Kindle Paperwhite or a mass market paperback. So because I have so many mass market paperbacks, I thought that that would be really good. So that's what I bought. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. And of course, I'll show it to you guys as soon as I do get it. So This is the Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry. This is the second one of these that I've knit. The first one was in shades of purple. This is clearly in shades of blue and gray. So this is a long shawl. So that is the first color, this sparkly gray. And then it goes into this blue and gray, which is called Winter Wonderland. And now I'm finally into the third and final color, which is called, what's this colorway called? So the silver is Lightning, I think. This one was the blue-gray was Winter Wonderland, and this last one is called Night Sky. So this is another sparkly yarn. You guys see the sparkle in it? Isn't it pretty? So there's where I was. I don't think I've shown this to you guys for a couple weeks, but there's where I was a couple weeks ago, and that's what I've gotten done. So I have quite a bit still to do, but the rows are getting super duper long, so yay. I'm loving this one a lot, and it's been a lot of fun to knit on. It's really, really great TV or booktube knitting or audiobook listening knitting, because you're just going back and forth, like knitting back and forth. Every 10 or 20 rows you need to do like this little lacy kind of row, but I mean, other than that, it's just straight knitting. That's the only part I really find I need to really pay attention at. The rest of it, I just kind of knit. So that's been, oops, let's not get the yarn caught in the bag. It's been really fantastic. And the last thing, I'll show it to you this one time, but I can't show you this again after. I'm doing some Christmas knitting, some Christmas gift knitting for somebody. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit of this over the next couple months. So not a lot of this will get shown, but living in my, I think I just had to show you guys this knitting bag. It's Santa and the reindeer, and they're golfing, as they would. What else is Santa going to do in the off season? He needs to he's got the elves to make the toys. Him and the reindeer should just go and enjoy themselves. And I love that they're driving around the golf cart. Is that not the sweetest thing ever? Oh, God, I love it. So I am working on a project. I'm not even going to tell you guys what it is. Oh, yeah, and the inside of the bag just says ho, ho, ho. Is something for a friend. That's all I'm going to show you. When I'm done these projects, I'll take pictures. And then during Christmas, like maybe that'll be fun. Like a video on Christmas Day will just be like, maybe I'll do clips of me showing off the finished Christmas items, the items that I knit for people for Christmas. And then on Christmas Day, I'll do like a little Merry Christmas, because I usually do a little Merry Christmas video. But I'll insert all those clips and show you guys all these finished projects. Maybe that'll be kind of fun. So yeah, so that's all you're gonna see. It's just this with my awesome Black Cat stitch marker. So yeah, that's it. Secret Santa gift knitting, I guess you'd call it. So yeah, and like I said, I've got a couple projects. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5 I'm gonna be doing. So I usually don't gift knit, like I usually don't Christmas knit for people. If my family wants a hat or something, they'll just tell me, Sarah, can you knit me a hat? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll get right on that. But I don't generally do stuff for the holidays. So this is very exciting that I have stuff to knit for people this Christmas. So yay. Yeah. And oh, one other thing. I meant to show you guys these a few weeks ago, but I totally forgot. And do I have it over here? I do. So one of my favorite stores on Etsy, still got my pom-pom hat on, is SJ Wonderlands. And she does bookmarks. So there's her card. And I will, of course, leave a link to her shop in the description box below, so you guys can check her out. But she does some awesome bookmarks. All of my bookmarks, pretty much, sorry, let me refocus, come from her. So I don't know if you guys are going to you won't be able to see it from here, but right there, I have a mug. So it's right underneath that orange flower. I have a mug, my Read Bliss mug, that is actually filled with bookmarks. And even though I don't read a lot of physical books, I still like having bookmarks. So she had her new fall ones release, and I had to buy them. So I thought I'd show them to you guys. So if you want to go ahead and purchase them, you can. So she does this great series, this bookshop series, and it's one per season. So this is the fall one. Got the pumpkins. Isn't that gorgeous? It's like a house. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I really like it. And then this one, which is just a book stack with the pumpkin spice latte. Couldn't say no to that one. I've got the Christmas version of this one as well. It's really cute. So these are the ones I'm going to be using in October and probably November as well. Pumpkin spice and everything nice. Again, another little book stack with the pumpkin. They're not laminated, nothing like that. I actually prefer them not laminated. I don't know why. I really like these. And they're very affordable too, you guys. And totally worth it. She's a great seller. I got this one. Autumn Leaves and Pumpkins Please. Very pretty. Love this one. A little bit more Halloween. Basic Witch. I do love that one. That one's awesome. And then last one is Give Thanks for Good Books. So yeah. So there. I thought I'd show those off to you guys. I'm sorry I forgot to do that the last time. Over the last few weeks. But yeah. So anyway, guys, that's all that I have for this video this week. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of the books that I talked about? Or what was your favorite book that you read this week? Have you finished any books yet in October? Do let me know. And I just love this hat, sorry. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.